When the Secretary of Defense tells U.S. forces to, quote, kill them all, and when the President of the United States says he won't seek congressional approval because, quote, we're going to kill them dead, that's not national security. That's outlaw governance. It's the architecture of authoritarian violence. And now, former top military lawyers say these aren't just reckless orders. They are war crimes or murder or perhaps both. And in this episode, we are going to follow the pattern. Secret signal chats, the War Department rebranding, the loyalty stunts, the illegal orders, and denials that don't match the eyewitness accounts. Because this is the story of a Pentagon philosophy, not of defense, but of no quarter. Let's get it. Hey, welcome back to the podcast. Let's get right into it today. On January 24th, 2025, Senator Mark Kelly, ahead of the confirmation vote for Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, declared, quote, he is the most unprepared nominee to lead the Department of Defense that has ever been put forward. And it took less than a year for the former weekend Fox News anchor to prove him right. This weekend's bombshell reporting from the Washington Post proved it may be worse than anyone ever expected, as they claim that Secretary Hegseth gave a verbal order to, quote, kill them all, as they prepared an attack on an alleged, that's an important word, alleged narco-terrorist boat off the shore of Venezuela. An order we are learning was carried out, and no matter how you slice it, it was illegal. Now, what does no quarter mean? Maybe you've heard this term before, maybe you haven't, but let's just be clear. No quarter means the refusal to accept surrender and the intent to leave no survivors or take no prisoners. And the order of no quarter, or kill them all, which is the same sort of idea, it's illegal. It's illegal under the 1907 Hague regulations. It's illegal under the Geneva Convention. It's illegal under the Rome Statute. It's illegal under customary international law. It's illegal under maritime law. Like, no matter how you slice it, it is an illegal order. One person said it like this, said, no quarter is a per se war crime. The moment you say it, you've committed one. Hegseth has proven time and again that he is unfit and unqualified for the position that he holds. Let's talk about it. First, just barely into office, we have Signalgate. You probably remember Signalgate, this sort of unauthorized back channel that Hegseth set up with his close friends and allies and accidentally included a reporter in the signal chat, where himself, Hegseth, and others used this signal chat to discuss defense matters outside of official, legally required communication systems where messages could indeed disappear, which violates the FOIA Act. Wholly incompetent, and intentionally so, like trying to operate in secrecy outside of any way in which there can be any level of accountability, is a problem for the Secretary of Defense. So he opens up a Signalgate. Should have been disqualifying at the time. But alas, this is Donald Trump's administration. It's his cabinet, and there's not much that is disqualifying within this cabinet. Then we have the situation where they decide that they're going to rebrand the Department of Defense to the Department of War, because we know that Pete Hegseth likes to LARP as a warrior. He makes these claims that he's going to restore the warrior ethos at the Department of quote-unquote war. But he's LARPing. He's live action role playing. He's not a hero. He's not a warrior himself. He's a recovering alcoholic who barely could make it on Fox Weekend News as a host. I mean, let's be honest. But he sort of Hegseth pushed this symbolic rebrand from defense to war. We're not going to be on the defense. We're going to be on the offense. We're going to build a war machine. And this is an indicator of like a worldview that he holds, and obviously that Donald Trump is in agreement with him on. And that is that America is in a perpetual war state. It moves away from a mission of defense and legality and proportionality into this war-minded, warmongering mindset, if you will. Keep in mind that rebranding the Department of Defense to the Department of War is going to cost, I think, upwards to $1 billion plus to change everything, to make all of the signage and do all of the legal whatever things that need to be done. It's going to cost a lot of money to rebrand to the Department of War. For what? Just so that he can get his rocks off on being the Secretary of War, pretending like he's some warrior? It's foolishness. Then we have this summons of loyalty, right? Maybe you remember this, it wasn't too long ago, where Hegseth ordered that all senior Department of Defense leaders come together in one location, one room. Unprecedented move, and has never happened in the history of the Department of Defense. He didn't give them any briefing materials. There was no agenda. There was no operational justification for bringing all of these high-level officials together on the same day in the same room, which was a concern of national security. It violated the continuity of government protocols. You are not supposed to have all of these high-level officials together at one time in one location that's broadcast to the world. It is a problem. Matter of fact, it's so much of a problem. Steve Lepper, who's a retired Air Force Major General, said this about Pete Hegseth. What's being done right now in the dismantling of the rule of law in the military is very dangerous for our country. There is this track record of incompetence. There is this track record of proving that Pete Hegseth is wholly unfit and unqualified for the position that he holds. Just because you have mantras about the warrior ethos does not mean that you know the first thing about leading a department that is so critical to the national security of our nation. And that brings us to the article itself and what we're talking about with this give no quarter order, or this kill them all order. Now, I want to just read a few parts from the Washington Post article that was published November 28th, 2025. The headline for the article reads, Hegseth order on first Caribbean boat strike. Officials say, quote, kill them all. And this was a Washington Post exclusive reported by Alex Horton and Ellen Nakashima. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that properly. But let me read just a little bit to give you some idea of what we're talking about here. The article reads, the longer the U.S. surveillance aircraft followed the boat, the more confident intelligence analysts watching from command centers became that the 11 people on board were ferrying drugs. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth gave a spoken directive according to two people with direct knowledge of the operation. The order was to kill everybody, one of them said. A missile screamed off the Trinidad coast, striking the vessel and igniting a blaze from bow to stern. For minutes, commanders watched the boat burning on a live drone feed. As the smoke cleared, they got a jolt. 2 survivors were clinging to the smoldering wreck. The special operations commander overseeing the September 2nd attack ordered a second strike to comply with Hegseth's instructions. Two people familiar with the matter said. The two men were blown apart in the water. Now, we have a couple of problems here. A major problem is that, A, there's not even proof that that it's legal for us to even be bombing these boats off of the shores of Venezuela. These supposed narco terrorists, there has been given no due process, no proof, no evidence whatsoever that these folks are terrorists, that they are ferrying drugs. There's no proof that they are anything more than just fishermen who are working off of the coast of Venezuela. That in and of itself needs to be investigated. But let's set that aside. Let's paint the best, most gracious picture that we can about the situation, and the situation is atrocious if we're being honest. But in the most gracious storytelling of this, say they are narco terrorists, say they are ferrying drugs, say they are on their way to destroy America with the drugs in their boats. Let's say all of that's true. I don't think it is, but let's say that it is. Let's say that we even have a declaration of war from Congress, which, by the way, is what you need. Congress holds the keys or the authority to declare war. The president does not. So let's even paint that picture. It has not been done, but let's say that Congress has given a declaration of war against these narco terrorists. In that scenario, if you struck that boat with that first missile and then saw that there were people who had survived the first strike, but yet were now out of the fight, as some would say, they do not have an ability any longer to defend themselves or to fight back. According to maritime law, according to Geneva Conventions, according to the Hague Convention, according to the laws of engagement, even within a wartime conflict, you are required by law to rescue them and arrest them. And you are prohibited by law to kill them. You are prohibited to follow an illegal order of no quarter. Now, again, there is no congressional approval for any sort of war against narco terrorists in Venezuela. That has not been given. Trump hasn't even asked for it. He declared that he's just going to kill them dead. B, so A, there's no guarantee that there is no war, no congressional war. B, there is no proof, evidence whatsoever. There's not been given any due process, no way for us to know who these people are, what they were actually doing. There is no evidence put forth that they have a history of smuggling drugs or participating in some sort of terrorist organization that is smuggling drugs. We don't have evidence or proof of that. It has not been put forth. And then lastly, C, what we do know is that now there have been multiple strikes. I think I could be wrong on this number, but about 38 people who have been killed off of the shores of Venezuela in these sort of these declared narco-terrorist attacks that many believe are illegal. And even if all 38 aren't illegal, we know for certain that if this story is true, if what is being reported by WAPO here is true, that there were two who had survived and were ordered in a second or a double tap strike to execute them in the water, that is murder. I listened to one person, forget Chris Goldsmith, I think is his name. He's I follow him on Instagram, who's a former military, part of military personnel, said, hey, don't call it a war crime because we're not actually at war. It's just cold-blooded murder. It's just murder. So this makes a little bit more sense from last week when I talked about Donnie the Despot and how upset he was about the quote-unquote seditious six, the PSA that went out from the lawmakers that said, do not follow illegal orders. You must not follow illegal orders. Remember, Donald Trump, uh, the press secretary, the Department of Defense secretary, like all of them got up in arms and said, "Well, you're insinuating, you're implying that we are giving orders that are unlawful. This is seditious. You're disrupting the chain of command." All of this sort of nonsense that they kept spewing. Why were they spewing that? Well, perhaps because they already know that they've given illegal orders. This is no surprise when, Trump is when asked about getting congressional approval, said, "No, we're just going to kill them dead. I don't need congressional approval. What I'm going to do is just authorize Pete and the Department of Defense to just kill them dead." So that's no surprise. So when the president declares he won't seek approval before killing, no quarter becomes national policy, not just a battlefield crime. He's essentially setting a precedent for national policy of no quarter. We're just going to kill them. No due process, no congressional approval for war. We're just going to bomb them. We're just going to murder them. And Hegseth followed Trump's lead. And let me be clear here. There's a chain of command of people who were involved in these extrajudicial murders, killings. Again, no due process, no ability to state their claim, no ability to prove their case. No, they don't have, there's no justification. It's really hard for dead people to testify, right? You can't have survivors in that situation, because then if you ask the survivors questions and they testify to the fact that they've never been involved in narcoterrorism, they've never been involved in drug smuggling, they're just fishermen. Now what? But dead people don't testify. And so there's this whole chain of command now, because Trump set this precedent that there's this no quarter policy, that he's not going to seek congressional approval. He is the law. Therefore, he's going to give the order to just kill them dead. Hegseth followed that order. And according to the claims in the Washington Post article, said, kill them all. And then the people under his chain of command followed those orders. But here's the problem. What we've learned throughout history, since there's been established law against no quarter, there's been established law against, quote unquote, kill them all. We've had trials out of Vietnam, the Nuremberg trials, where people were literally put to death because they followed orders. So we learn now that following orders is not a viable defense for these things. So not only did Trump declare and make this sort of policy of no quarter, Hegseth said, kill them all. The commander underneath him followed those orders for a double tap on this boat, on these survivors in the water who were out of the fight, if you will, to obliterate them, to murder them in the open seas. Everybody involved in executing that particular strike are now responsible for following illegal orders. And they cannot use, "I was just following orders," as defense. This is why the 6 lawmakers made the public service announcement to all people serving in the military, to all people serving in intel. You must not follow illegal orders. It's part of the United Code of Military Justice. Like, do not follow illegal orders. So what do we do from here? We must demand accountability for Pete Hegseth and all involved. We need Pete Hegseth investigated and impeached. He must be removed. He is a danger to national security. Let me know what you think. Comment below. Do me a favor. If you like what you're hearing on the channel, please like and subscribe to the channel. Share it with your friends and family. things are getting worse, I think. And I think they're probably going to get a little bit worse before they get better. But we got to keep calling it out and keep talking about it. So if you like it, let me know in the comments below. Again, subscribe, share, and we'll see you next episode.